Hey there guys, I'm just a guy having fun at the range. I'm off the range today to address a comment that I've seen a lot of people leave in my videos, and that is, why isn't your slide locking back? A couple years ago I had kind of a lame explanation for that. And I've done some thinking, some working, and thanks to some other commenters I saw this comment. And I said, no, that's not possibly me, but it turns out that comment is exactly right. The reason that my slide has not been locking back on several of the guns that I've been using is because my grip, my hands on the gun, has been wrong. So I want to make a quick video. I want to talk about what causes a slide to lock back or to fail to lock back, and what I was doing and why I was doing it wrong and how I've been working to fix that. So first and foremost, let's talk about the slide locking back on a firearm. On most modern firearms, there is a slide stop lever. This is an ambidextrous Glock 34 Gen 5, so it has one on both this side and on this side here. Most have it just on the right side. That slide stop lever, or slide lock lever, slide stop, I'm going to go with slide stop. That slide stop lever is intended to hold the slide to the rear, and usually this happens when the magazine is empty. There's a mechanism within the magazine, these are dummy rounds by the way, within the magazine to push that lever up so that when the magazine is depleted of ammunition, the slide locks to the rear. That's the normal operation of the slide stop lever. Now, in several of my videos, I said, oh, it didn't lock back on the last round, that's weird, and I had my dumb explanation concerning the elevation and things like that. No, it's not elevation, it's me being stupid. But the slide failing to lock back is not always the result of someone being unwise or having improper grip, which was the case with me. Sometimes it's actually a different issue with either the gun or the grip that causes that slide not to lock to the rear. For example, a magazine with a weak follower, if it doesn't have enough spring pressure to actually push up on that slide stop lever or push it up fast enough, it may miss the reciprocation of that slide and it won't lock to the rear. So that's a possible explanation of an equipment malfunction that would cause it not to lock to the rear. Now if you've got good magazines, you've got a good service pistol, it's usually not going to be a fault of the equipment. So the number one reason why slides don't lock back, and I'm glad that nobody accused me of this because it would have been rather embarrassing, is limp wristing. Limp wristing is essentially when you've got the gun in your hand but you're not giving a good push, good pull, you're not locking it in, and the recoil of the gun is slopping the gun around. Remember that this semi-automatic pistol, when the gun goes off, the slide wants to recoil. And it has to recoil against something hard. The power in that round, especially in a 9mm, is very close to exactly the amount of power needed to cycle that slide. And if any of that energy is absorbed by the gun slopping around, it's not going to be able to reciprocate the whole way, and it's not going to pick up the next round correctly, or it's not going to reach the slide stop lever. Right, there's a host of different reasons why limp wristing would cause problems. Usually you'll have significantly larger issues. A lot of recoil or muzzle flip will ensue, or you'll have failures to feed, cartridges that are kind of coming in at an angle rather than getting stripped in. That happens because the part of the slide that's stripping the next round gets caught right underneath in the groove between the head and the rest of the case. The slide will get in there, it'll start to shove it into the chamber, but because that head is still underneath the slide, it'll just kind of jam in sideways. So those are issues of limp wristing, and thank you that nobody accused me of limp wristing. They noticed that my muzzle was not flipping that much. But yes, my thumb was also sitting on top of the slide stop lever. And you say, I've been shooting for so long. How in the world did that happen? Well, I do have a logical explanation based on how my grip changed in the year 2019. And I know that it's 2019 because a very specific thing happened in 2019. In 2019, I went to Front Sight and I took their 4-day defensive handgun course with this gun right here. This is a Rock Island Armory. Technically, it's their 10mm TAC Ultra, I had it chambered in 40 cal for the course. 10 millimeter was going to be a little bit hefty and a little bit hard on the bank, even back there at pre-COVID prices. But anyway, I had this chambered in 40 cal. I took it because I wanted to learn how to shoot a 1911 a little bit better. I'd done the course with Glocks and XDs and things like that, tried out a 1911. And this is the gun that ruined everything. Ruined everything. I hate 1911s in general, but this is one more reason why I hate it. The reason why this gun ruined everything is because it has an external safety. This little external safety lever. You're saying, how in the world does this result in holding down the slide stop lever on literally every other gun that you have? Well, if I had shot my videos from the other side, rather than you guys seeing this side of the firearm, you would have noticed that I've changed what I do on my grip because of this 1911. Because of that external safety, let me flip around this way, because of that external safety, I've got this high grip on the firearm. And because of that high grip, my thumb likes to sit right underneath this external safety. And during that course, I found that as I was pushing and pulling, there's my safety off, my thumb would push up. Notice I'm not really touching that safety lever much, but just my knuckle right here on the very back of that safety, it would push it in. And that's the worst thing when you're doing controlled pairs and your first one goes off fine, but as it recoils, their safety goes on and you go and you mash that second one. It's very embarrassing. Okay? So that was the issue that I was having during the course, was because of my high grip, my thumb is sitting right underneath there and it would pop up that safety. So one of the instructors, and I don't know if this was a good idea or the idea that just came to his mind, was, oh, why don't you sit that thumb up on top of the safety and that'll keep it down while you're firing. And because it's a nice extended safety lever there, that's actually not terribly uncomfortable. It bites a little bit in my webbing, but I did the rest of the course with my thumb on top of that safety lever. I'd come up out of the holster and this was my grip. Okay, you can see that I'm sitting on top of that safety lever. And the rest of the course went well because now I could get off my controlled pairs without that safety lever jumping up on me and blocking my slide. Okay? That fundamentally shifted everything that I was doing in drawing from a holster and getting my good push-pull, not only on this 1911, but on every firearm that I shot after that. Let me give you a different angle to show you how that changes a lot about my draw. All right, this may be an awkward angle, but I want to give you essentially my point of view on my draw from my holster. So here's my Glock 34 in the holster without the thumb safety. I'm going to show you the old way that I would have gotten this gun out of the holster. So as I'm driving down, I'm doing it the new way. Okay, so as I'm driving down, my thumb would essentially be parallel with my finger or a little bit behind. Reason for that is if there's a retention device, my thumb can hit and activate that retention device. If this is an inside the waistband holster, my thumb actually needs to be a little bit behind so that I'm not digging into my pants with my thumb. So either way, it's going to be either parallel or a little bit behind where my hand's line is as I'm driving down on the gun. Okay, drive down, I can even use my thumb to hit that retention device or push up out of the holster, and the gun will come out, and you'll notice that my thumb ends up landing beneath the safety lever. Okay, beneath the safety lever. And then I'll show you guys what it looks like with two hands when I have two hands to do that with. Now let's go ahead and look at what happens with the 1911. Now because there is this external safety and it's up here, and I know that I'm going to want to sweep it down. All of a sudden my draw, rather than coming straight down like this and my thumb being underneath that safety lever and then having to come up on top of it, I modified, without even knowing, this was subconscious, I modified it so that my thumb is actually forward. I drive down, see how my thumb is forward, and this is more comfortable because it doesn't run into my holster anywhere, and because I wasn't using a retention device, this didn't change anything about how I was grabbing the gun. The gun comes out, okay, and then as I'm driving out towards my target, my thumb can push that down. Now do you notice what's going to happen here? On the 1911 it's not a big deal because my slide stop lever is way up there. Okay, here is where my thumb is going to land. But let's look at what happens when I do that on a Glock as opposed to the 1911. Alright, so here's the Glock back on my hip. Okay, I'm going to keep my thumb forward now, and this is what I was doing for all of my drives. Since 2019, I've been doing this with all of my drives. Now my thumb is up where it would be as though I'm drawing that 1911. It's comfortable. I can slide right in there. It feels good. I come up and out of the holster, and oh, where is that slide stop lever? There it is. Yeah, literally right where the slide stop lever is where my thumb is going to end up naturally hitting. So my thumb is literally sitting right on top of the slide stop lever with my draw because of that 1911 modification that I did. Okay? So now my thumb is sitting right there. To make matters worse, as this hand comes up and they come together, you'll notice that this is actually kind of a nice thumbs forward grip. This one can be nice along the slide. This guy is up and out of the way. I'm not squishing either one, and they can both sit there. Now this would not be a problem if this thumb were away from the gun a little bit. Okay? If I was crossing those thumbs a little bit rather than this one sitting right next to the slide. But because I was used to that 1911 and kind of putting that pressure on the back of the slide to keep that slide, the safety down, I'm now pushing against the side there. Not a lot, it's not throwing off my shots or anything like that, but just enough that my thumb is sitting right on top of that slide stop lever, and in the recoil of that last round, it's not locking the slide to the rear. Okay? So that's the quick and simple explanation for why my guns have not been locking to the rear. It's all of the different models where my thumb ends up landing right on top of that slide lock lever. And I started pulling out my XDs and all of the different guns that I shoot just to see, like, oh, how many of my guns does this affect? Everything but a 1911. The 1911 is the only one where I can sit with my thumb on top of that safety or even under the safety, and it doesn't quite reach that slide stop lever because it's a little bit further forward than it is on the Glock. But it ruins it every time. Okay? All right. So that's the issue, that's the explanation. Why does it not lock back? If you've asked that question in the comments, thank you for pointing it out, because I was really willing and ready to accept my dumb elevation argument. My brain rationalized that, and it made enough sense to me I wasn't going to question it. But because it was happening on things like 10 millimeters and 40 cals that don't normally have problems locking back, like a 9 millimeter I get, but some of those bigger cartridges, that was starting to bug me a little bit. I mean, is there really that much of a difference? No, there's really not that much of a difference. It's the shooter. The shooter is the problem. So what have I been doing to fix that? You'll notice several of my videos recently, I don't have this issue. Why is that? The reason why is because I have now modified my grip. I'm focusing on making sure that my thumb is either below the slide stop lever, so a thumbs forward grip where one thumb is underneath the other, okay? Or if it's above, I'm pushing it away from the gun. And that's a little awkward to me. So I usually try and go low. Get me myself back in frame. I'm usually trying to go low with that thumb rather than coming up over the top and crossing. I'm going low. The primary thing that I've done the primary thing that I've changed to fix that is essentially making sure that when I'm driving down, my thumb is not forward at all. See if that works better. There you go. Okay, so it's either perfectly even or even back a little bit as I'm going down. That makes sure that my thumb lands either in line underneath that slide stop lever or down a little bit, and then I can get my good push-pull based on that. Right. So every draw that I'm doing, and it's funny because I'll be at the range and I will do a draw and I all of a sudden feel my thumb is pointing forward. I've been tempted, on my my Alien Gear holsters, they have a thumb activated retention piece that I take off because I don't necessarily need it. I've been considering putting it back on just to train myself to essentially go for that thumb position right there to unleash it and come back out. Anyway, I hope that's been educational. I hope that that's a valid explanation for why I'm being so dumb. And maybe it was somewhat educational for you and how you draw your firearms and shoot. Do you ever look at where your thumbs actually land on the gun or any part of your hand? I have one gun where occasionally when I fire, the magazine falls out. It's the perfect Hollywood gun blunder of taking a shot or squeezing the trigger and the magazine falls out. So for mine, at least goes off once. And it took me a while to figure out why, and it's just where that magazine release is on that particular firearm and where my hands land. I have a knuckle on the magazine release, and it just happens so that in that recoil it bumps the magazine release. So I have to change what I do for that particular firearm. Anyway, I hope this has been fun. Hopefully it's been informative. Thank you again to all of you guys who have commented, and to this guy for pointing out, yeah, it's you. You're just not good. Colt 10mm, I appreciate all of your comments on all my videos. So thank you, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Stay safe.